Welcome to the Maverick podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Rose, and I'm so happy to be here with you today. I have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Marlene Shiple. She is a psychotherapist in Arizona, and I truly believe she has the most brilliant psychological mind I have ever met. We've been good friends for 38 years, I think. We've taught a lot of retreats together, a lot of seminars and workshops. But I want to welcome her today so that we can talk about the Maverick spirit. So come on board, Marlene.
Hello.
Hello. So
I too am glad to be here with you.
Wonderful. I mean, you and I have been good friends for so long, and I have been the beneficiary of your psychological wisdom so many times. Marlene has been my go-to person for when I want to understand psychology more deeply in order to work with my clients. And she's been a wealth of information for me, but she is a maverick and she has a very interesting story. So can I share your story about arthritis?
Please.
Okay. Now, am I correct? You were 18 years old when you were diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, correct?
I was actually 19, but 18 is right there.
Okay. Yes. So it came on powerfully and suddenly. What I wanted to talk about today was the kind of maverick mentality that is required when you are limited either by life in general or by an authority telling you what you can or cannot do or cannot achieve. And what I wanted to talk about with Marlene is how she jumped into her journey of not absorbing or believing what the doctors said, which is you have this disease and you will have it your entire life and you might as well just get used to it. So dive in and tell us about that, Marlene.
Okay, well, for me, that maverick mindset is a combination of two separate things. The one is being in a place myself where I know that anything is possible, and being able to keep my vibration, to keep my awareness and my own tapping into things so open that whatever solution is there can just kind of come to me. So that's the first step. Second step, and this one I think is even more important, is not being attached to other people's approval. So if in fact answers come to me, they're my own unique answers, which of course will be the case. I have my own unique directions and my own unique contribution in the world, and as everyone does. So when that information comes to us, then it's really, really important to generate the courage to act on it. And that means not listening to naysayers, not needing someone else to say, oh, yep, you're on the right track. Yes, that'll work. Or even to agree with your conclusion about the situation. So my focus is when a problem arises, when a situation comes up, my focus is, I know there's a solution. I know it can come to me. Okay, it may not come quickly, it may not come fast. I'm not going to rush that process. I'm open to however it comes. And part of stacking the deck on that, I know that it can come to me, is I'm not going to stop until I found it. Okay, so it's going to come to me. I know it's there. I know it will arrive. I'm not going to stop till it comes to me, and then I'm going to put it into action. And that was the way I approached the arthritis as well. My solution came 13 years later. Okay, so it took trying this that would arise. Someone would suggest that, I'd try that. Somebody else would suggest this. And I was going to medical doctors at the time. So my medical doctor, my rheumatologist, was into research. And therefore he tried me on different experiments. I was in different studies. but never found anything that really helped. And so I moved out to Phoenix, Arizona, met a friend within a month of being here. And she was going to the ARE clinic, the Association for Research and Enlightenment here in Phoenix, which has its home base in Virginia Beach, of course. And that's the Edgar Cayce Foundation. She was going there when I met her. Okay. Didn't connect for me. Okay. Years and years and years later, I was talking to a friend about Edgar Cayce and how my other friend had been going to the clinic and the results she was getting. And my friend said, why don't you try it? Bingo. I hadn't even thought of that before. So it came to me and I proceeded to do that. Okay. I did that independent of my medical direction, although Dr. Bill McGarry, who was running the clinic, it was an MD. And I learned what Edgar Cayce advocated as far as arthritis. And it is a really intense and complex protocol. But I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I need to do it all in. Prior to that, like 6 months before that, a different friend had said, why don't you have a hair analysis? And I did, and got on a real strict vitamin mineral program. For 6 months, I did that, saw no results at all. But I had the feeling something was coming. I had the feeling that it was preparing me for something. So I went to the ARE clinic. I found out what Edgar Cayce's protocol was. I got everything that I needed, and I set out doing all of those things. And at the time, I was taking 24 aspirin a day. I was on gold injections, and I had been on prednisone for those 13 years. There was actually a year before that, so I had the arthritis for 14 years, but 13 when I was actively treating. And so the thing I wanted to be off first was prednisone. So I started cutting that down and immediately had a flare-up. And so I went back on it. I never had another gold injection. And then I started gradually tapering back on the aspirin. And within 2-3 months, I was off all of the aspirin. And then I started on the prednisone again. And just really, really tiny, tiny bits of it started cutting back. And over the next 3 months, I got off the prednisone. When I went to my doctor after that, and he examined me, and I was telling him I wasn't having any effects. Before I had pain every day. I was in constant inability to do things. And when I was telling him about that, I said, it's gone. And he smiled. And I said to him, so when do we get to say I'm cured? And he said, we don't. In the medical community, we don't talk about cure. We talk about it's in remission. So I said, you mean it's been gone now for these 6 months? It's going to continue being gone for years and years and years and years and years. And we never get to say I'm cured? And he said, no, it's in remission. I said, okay, well, I'm cured. And proceeded to move forward on that. But again, all of that not needing to accept, I have to have this the rest of my life, not needing to accept that was a real powerful part of that result coming about.
Yes, probably the very first step is saying, I don't need to have this for the rest of my life. And it's exactly what you said, a solution will come to me. Yes. And I will never give up until I find that solution.
And that goes along with the fact that we create our own reality. So on 2 separate levels, okay, we have the subconscious mind, which is the deep part of our mind and operates like a very obedient servant to create what we tell it. Okay, subconscious mind doesn't care what you tell it. It's going to create. It's a creating demon. Okay, a creating angel, actually. And it's just going to create. But here's the problem. What you tell it is what it's going to create. So if you tell it, there's no solution. I'm stuck with this for the rest of my life. You are correct. You're stuck with it for the rest of your life. Not because you had to be, But because once you told your subconscious mind that, it's working to then create that longevity. That's the one level. I consider that the micro level. Okay, then there's the macro level, and that's the universe. So you put out to the universe what it is that you want. Okay, the statement is ask and it will be given to you. So you put out to the universe what you want, and that can come back on the overriding level. So big view, universe, spirit, bringing it about. Smaller view, your subconscious mind. You've got powerful forces creating in your life.
And what happens for the people who get a diagnosis like that and they don't actively embrace or believe what the doctor says as far as you're going to have this for the rest of your life?
Mhm.
They don't actively energize it, but they don't actively energize the opposite either. So it's implanted and it's in there and they remain neutral. It still doesn't go anywhere unless they take action, right?
Exactly, because then you kind of get potluck. Okay, you get whatever comes to you. And lately, I've really been impressed and focused on the fact that we don't ask for enough. We don't specify and get clear. What do I really want? Because when I get clear what I really want, I can put that out. I can ask for it, and I can start being open to solutions coming to me about that. And then that comes, and then I can say, oh, what else would I like?
Exactly.
Yes.
One of the things I come up against with clients is when I say, what do you really want? And they say, well, the problem is I don't know.
Yes.
And I'll say, well, if you don't know, what do you want generally? And I talk about, at the very least, put out some basic foundational beliefs upon which you can build your reality. And these basic foundational beliefs can be generally specific and specifically general. As in, if you don't know for sure exactly in detail what you want at that point, then energize those basic foundational beliefs. One of mine is, I am in the flow. I am in the right place at the right time. And everything always works out for me. And basic foundational belief upon which I build my reality. You can't go wrong there, because then you get into the flow.
Exactly. And those of you listening really hear what Kathy just said. That is so right on. And she says it so kindly. I'm a lot meaner. Okay? I say to my clients, I don't accept I don't know from even my 5-year-old clients. And the reason I don't accept I don't know from my 5-year-old clients is because when you say I don't know, your subconscious mind creates don't know.
Good
Okay?
point.
So, lucky for me, I am also a hypnotist. And one of the things I've learned over the years of doing hypnosis with people is it's a way that they can tap their own wisdom. So, of course, there's an answer to that question. What do they want? And I have started experimenting with, I don't have to do complete deep inductions. I can just move them into a hypnotic state, have them go inside and talk to that wise part inside of them. And the beauty of that, remember, I'm a therapist, okay? I not only ask them what it is that they want, I ask them how can they get it. So that wise part of them not only gives us the answer to the question, but gives us the solution. Then, since they're already in a hypnotic state, I can start having them rehearse bringing that about.
And all of what you just said, for those listening, just write down this process and do it to yourself.
Exactly. That information is there for you. Now, the important part of that is that you trust that it's there.
Yes.
Okay? That you rest in it, that you open to asking the question, ask and you receive. Okay. And then you let the information pour in.
So let's address that for a second, that you trust that it's there, because another roadblock I often hear, or feedback I hear from clients, is, well, I trusted it for 3 days and it didn't happen. So see, I told you it doesn't work. And it is that self-sabotage, looking for a way to find a negative so that they can go back to an old pattern instead of establishing a new pattern that requires more courage.
And my response to that is it's too small an N. When you're doing research, okay, you need to have many, many samples. Okay, the N is the number of samples. 3 days, way too small an N. Okay, we need a much larger sample size than that.
And so what if they say, what larger, how long should I wait?
Oh, okay, well, mine was 14 years.
Mhm.
I'm proof that it not only works, but also that you can then continue that success for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Okay, do I think that it needs to take you 14 years? This is the other thing I say. Do I think it needs to take you 14 years? No, I don't. I think you'd be much more efficient than I was. But you give it the time it takes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And you don't give up. Now, when we speak of the Maverick spirit and how Maverickism plays into this, how do you define the Maverick personality?
I believe it's having the courage to be yourself, to be the unique expression of life that you're here to express, that you're here to provide. And as I said before, and not giving in to other people's skepticism, other people's ideas. What other people provide is what works for them, or it doesn't work for them, maybe, but it's what works for them. That doesn't in any way apply to you. When I have clients who come in and they said, I've been online and I found all of these things about this problem that I have, with this condition that I have. And what I've discovered is that it can't be helped. It's going to be with me always. Okay. I point out to them that they may have read someone's story that believes that, and therefore that is what they're experiencing. They may be well-intentioned and they're telling the truth about their experience. But then I ask, how does that relate to you if you approach it differently? And I explain to them how the mind works, what I said earlier about the subconscious mind creating. And so if you're not coming from that same place of there's no way to solve this, if you're coming from a place of there's a solution and it's going to be coming out any minute now, then your mind's going to be creating a whole different result. And we want your mind creating a whole different result. So it's important not to listen to other people who also, for me, believe that arthritis it's a life sentence. You've got it. So it's important not to listen to their beliefs either if you're looking to create a different result.
And you wrote a book on this, and I have to say, as I mentioned in the intro, I've known Marlene for about 38 years. We met in Arizona, and she's been pain-free. I've witnessed it. There's been no arthritis in the time that I've known her. And of course, it was before that. So your book called Arthritis Pain Free, Heal Arthritis Naturally. I Did, You Can Too, by Marlene Shiple, PhD. You can get it on Amazon, right? You just Google it.
Mm-hmm. It's on Amazon. And the second line there is actually the message I want people to have about this.
Heal arthritis naturally. I did. You can too.
Can too. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did isn't something unique in the world. It's something replicable and something that others can make happen too.
But the mindset has to go with it. It's not just do castor oil packs and Epsom salt baths or even colonics or vitamins. It is the mindset is the basic foundation that you build on.
With anything.
With anything, exactly.
Yes, where your mind is. Okay, so along that line, okay, really practical tools. One is keeping your thoughts positive, keeping your mind in a positive place. And if something comes that kind of gets it off track, how quickly can I get it back on that positive direction?
Let's address that real quick, because I love how you just said it. If something gets your mind off track, the focus is how quickly can you bring it back, as opposed to beating yourself up because you got off track. I focus on that all the time with clients because they say, oh man, and they shame themselves, they beat themselves up. And it's like, why wouldn't you just be excited you get a new opportunity to develop a new technique to bring you back on track?
Because I have a bad habit of beating myself up.
Exactly.
Okay, but the whole thing about that is that takes energy. And that energy that you put into recriminations against yourself, it's the same energy you could have used to move yourself on track.
Bingo. Mm-hmm.
So we want that energy to be used to move you ahead, to boost you forward. And you can do that with that positive way of thinking. And as Kathy just pointed out, with the awareness of being gentle and kind with yourself.
Yes. So this brings a question to my mind. I have had my fair share of pain cycles in life with my 2 hip replacements and waiting way too long before I had those surgeries. So I know what it's like to go with really bad chronic pain for several years. So I have a sense of what it was like for you in the beginning in your journey with the pain so bad in arthritis. But as you're focusing on healing it and releasing it and finding it, I'm sure there were moments where it was very challenging to avoid discouragement. And what did you find? What worked for you in those moments where you were tired, where it was just an extra painful day? Because you were putting yourself through college at the same time and working at the same time. Mm-hmm. So undergrad and graduate school, working with rheumatoid arthritis. I have to tell you, Marlene is a warrior. She is a hardcore spiritual warrior. To have done that.
But the other side of it is having all of those other areas, productive areas to focus on, kept me from focusing on the pain and being in a negative place. I didn't have the opportunity. I needed to be up in a class.
Good point.
There's benefits there. But answering your question, what would I do? Okay, get sleep. We don't recognize how important good sleep is to our mental health, to our emotional state, to our physical health. So I would definitely get sleep. I would say to myself, I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to go to bed right now, whatever suits the night, and we'll see what's left of this when I wake up. And normally there wasn't a lot left of it when I woke up. So the remedy really was working.
Good. That's a great point.
And dealing with chronic pain, you're going to totally identify with this, is draining on the system. So getting more sleep even than someone else would need or you would need at another time is essential.
Mm-hmm. I also found one of the free soul techniques. We both share the friend, Pete Sanders, the founder of the Free Soul Organization. In fact, that's how Marlene and I met. And I had Pete on 3 different episodes. And one of the episodes was about the blending techniques, blending and merging and becoming one, expanding your energy so that you could merge with your chair or with the room or, with people. But I used it to blend with the pain so that I didn't resist it or push it away, but instead relaxed into it, which would take the edge off just a bit.
And a lot of times people are fearful of doing that because they think the pain will get worse. And again, trusting to actually experiment with it and finding that without that resistance, the pain lightens and is tolerable.
Exactly. Now I mentioned this on the podcast with Pete for blending, but I'm going to say the story again because it was so meaningful to me. I did natural childbirth for both of my babies. And for the first one, I used a midwife, second one too, but I will never forget in the middle of really hardcore labor, the midwife brought her face right in front of my face. And she said, "You are resisting these contractions and tightening up against them. Please relax into the contraction." And I went, oh, I hadn't even realized I was doing that.
Nice.
Instant shift. instant shift. I blended and merged with a contraction. Baby was born very quickly, made all the difference in the world. She didn't specifically know the free soul techniques, but she knew it instinctively as that midwife dealing with women going through natural childbirth. Worked like a charm.
Exactly. And there was another application of your breathing too.
Yes.
Thing into it. Exactly.
Yes.
No.
But, it's the Maverick mentality, though, that would be able to say other people can have their opinion and their viewpoint, but I need to honor the information that's coming to me and my viewpoint and not compare what I feel and believe to them as in who's right and who's wrong, but just say, this is right for me and you can do what's right for you.
Exactly. And also that along with that, I had said earlier, not being attached to having acceptance and approval from others. Okay. Also, second step of that is that you're providing approval for yourself.
Yes.
So there's a basic amount of our emotional needs that we're intended to provide for ourselves. And it's a real setup when we think our emotional needs are supposed to be provided by someone outside of us. Okay, so they're busy. They're distracted. They don't realize we need something. We're not saying, okay? They are resisting and they don't want to give us what we need. Okay, in all of those situations, or they just don't know how. In all of those situations, we go without if we're depending on them to provide it. But if we're providing it, the beauty of that is the person who knows exactly what you want, knows the exact words that would be most meaningful to you, with the frequency that you could best use, and at the times where they would be most effective, is the one giving it. It couldn't be better than that.
And for those listening, I recommend, if that was meaningful to you, because those are golden words of wisdom, write them down. Self-love, self-appreciation, self-support. The affirmation, I am always supported, begins and ends with you supporting yourself and receiving it from the universe, because there's universal support and lovingness, depending on how you structure your idea of the divine and the universe. But that's always inherently there. Absolute, unconditional love and support.
Exactly.
I think I think one of the blocks that I see so many times with my clients is I attract a lot of clients who are great at giving and giving and giving, and not so great at receiving.
Not so great at receiving and not so great at giving to themselves.
Because of the receiving issue. Yeah.
And I think sometimes even not knowing to.
Yeah, the education, it's too bad that doesn't start day one in kind of cultural programming.
You know what starts day one in cultural programming is you're only thinking of yourself. That's selfish.
Yes.
And we're not talking selfish, we're talking self-care. Because just as the flight attendant on the airplane says, put on your own oxygen mask first before you attend to anyone else. Think about what would happen if you didn't. Okay. And so in that same way, we've got to recharge for ourselves first to have anything to give. I once asked someone to jumpstart my car, okay, to use their battery. I had the cables, but could I use their battery to jumpstart my car? They said no. And they explained that their battery was weak, and they were concerned that if they did that, they wouldn't be able to start their own car. And they were 100% correct. They needed to say no. I was taken aback when they said no, but then when they explained, it was like, oh, yeah, that would never work.
Yeah, recharge your own battery.
Recharge your own battery. Exactly.
Yeah.
Notice what you need. Pay attention, and then provide first and foremost for yourself.
I had recently 3 clients within a 2-week period from the same religious background, and the 3 clients I had all had measurements in their horoscope, which suggested part of their life purpose was to shine and to have visibility. And because there's something to learn when you shine and when you're visible, you have to learn self-confidence, you have to learn self-support, you have to learn self-love when you step into prominence. Well, they had the signatures in their chart as part of their life purpose. And each one of them, when I mentioned this, just gasped and said, oh my gosh, my religious training says that is not okay. That is not okay for anything to focus on me. My religious training says I must focus on everybody else. And it was really interesting conversation that came about at that point. It's selfish to focus on yourself or to shine or to lead or basically to receive. So we had to get past that.
Good. Since they were coming to you, I would imagine they were open to doing that.
Exactly.
Really wanting a solution to it. So excellent.
That programming we receive, the selfish programming, or if you don't have other people's approval, there's something wrong with you, that programming that starts so early, which is check the room, make sure you have their approval, watch their reactions. And then so many people saying, I am how they see me.
Yes.
And the shift that is, I think, a lot healthier and stronger is I love who I am unconditionally, and how they see me is their opinion.
Exactly. And my purpose for being here is to discover more and more about the unique expression that I am. So when I'm trying to please them, I'm totally tapping down that unique expression of me.
Again, my guest here, Dr. Marlene Shiple. She's in Phoenix, Arizona, practicing psychotherapist. And one of the things that I think is unique and beautiful about how you do therapy is that you're very action oriented with your clients. You don't want to just talk. You want to change habits, change behavior, have movement forward very quickly.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that develops that trust.
Mm-hmm.
People start to recognize what they're capable of, and then they even more are open to recognizing the limitations they've been putting on themselves and that they don't need them. So they can cast them off and really go for what they want. So exactly, I want them to start getting that proof. I also want them to know that I am teaching them the tools to be able to do this themselves so that they don't need me.
Yeah, now that's an important statement.
Yes, I want to be out of their lives so that they can develop that unique expression that they are. And I find many, many times my clients say to me that they repeat some of the tools that I've given them to other people. Okay. And I think that's really, really good, because you never learn something as well as when you teach it to someone else. But it lets me know that, yeah, they're making the steps that they need to be able to be independent and to be confident of who and what they are.
Exactly. So let's recap those first steps that you talked about in reframing the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis and embracing the part of your mind that said, doesn't have to be for me. Let's recap those first steps you talked about.
Well, the first one was the knowledge that there's a solution.
Great.
Okay. I don't have to know it right now, but there's a solution. Okay. The second step was, I know that it can come to me. So if I'm staying aware, if I'm allowing my vibration to be open, receptive, and high, then I can let the proper solutions that work for me come. So I know it can come to me, and I'm not going to stop until I find it. So I know it can come to me. I know there's going to be success here because I'm not stopping until I find it. Like I said, I consider that stacking the deck. And once I find it, I'm putting it into practice.
Believing in your own capability.
Exactly.
To make a change. And I think if we were to summarize those 3 steps, it is really believing in your own capability to bring about a different reality.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
coming from knowing that you create what path it
Mhm.
is for yourself on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis.
That phrase about the self-fulfilling prophecy, be mindful what you tell yourself about a situation, because you get to be right.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I will reflect that back to clients when I hear them
Mhm.
describing their life or their personality. And I say, you get to be right about that. Is that what you want?
Right.
Mhm.
But I do as well. It's like, are you sure that's what you want to create? Because in your situation, I wouldn't want that.
Mhm.
Okay. And they too smile just like you did.
Mhm.
They totally acknowledge, no, I don't want that either. And then on the spot, they reframe it. They change it.
You know what I think is beautiful about that is it offers choice as opposed to dogma or preaching or authoritarian control. It offers choice. You get to choose, which is underneath that is saying, I believe in you and I respect your choice and I respect the maverick within you, to be independent and unique and authentic.
Exactly. Just be sure that you're asking for what you really want.
Yeah.
Don't ask for things that wouldn't be what you wanted. Were you being aware of that?
Mm-hmm. Or what you're told to want.
What you're told you want, what other people think you should have, all of those things. Again, what they think you should have is a reflection of them, not you.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I believe Marlene's story in how she healed rheumatoid arthritis is very deep and very profound. Her book is very good. It will reinforce what we've talked about, but just the essence of what she has said here, write it down, consider writing these principles down and play with them every day because it's fun, it's empowering, and it allows you to expand. Yeah, you're doing good work in the world, Marlene. You have helped so many people through the years.
Thank you. And I return that same sentiment to you. You are doing excellent work in the world. Your unique expression.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
it's important because that gives us purpose, it gives us meaning.
Yes, it does. It does indeed.
So my new direction is going to be into the area of retirement coaching
Oh,
and back to meaning and purpose. So someone has set their life up and they have their work is what defines them, and actually working with them to create a new chapter, new adventure. Sky's the limit. What do you want it to be? And to really start breaking that down and defining what fits for them that creates meaning and purpose in their lives.
oh, that's beautiful. That's amazing.
Since I always have to have something new, that's my new something new.
Mhm.
So if anyone knows somebody who's struggling about retirement and panicked about it, that's a direction that I can work with them on.
Yes, and you're available to speak to people all over the world. You can do it by video conferencing or phone.
Exactly.
How do they find you?
They can email me, and my domain is the life coach doctor. So the life coach dr.com. Okay. And my email address is mshiple. So that's M like Marlene. Shiple is S like Sam, H-I like Peter, L-E at the life coach doctor.com. So email would be a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in the subject line, listen to the podcast.
Awesome. The lifecoachdoctor.com is the simplest one.
Mm-hmm.
DR.
Well, that's the domain. But Shiple is how they would get to my email.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. And people, listen, Marlene is a wealth of information. Honestly, I say this sincerely. I think she's got the most brilliant psychological mind I've ever met because it's clear and to the point and it's action oriented, which I don't know about you, but that's what I always want.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah. Point me in the right direction. Let me go. All right. Many blessings to you, Marlene. And I don't like to say goodbye. I like to say till next time.
Yes, there will be a next time.
Okay. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thank you to your audience as well. I hope you found some ideas that you can grab and put into action starting right now.
Right now.